Husband returns home. After 3 years of working alone, we're divorcing, I'm leaving. Suddenly, my 5-year-old brings something out, leaving him shaking. What did the daughter bring to the table? I have a new family now. Divorce, divorce. I don't need you or our daughter anymore. I'm leaving this house. With a loud bang, the front door swung open. In that moment, I felt the blood drain from my entire body. My husband's cool gaze froze me in place. It felt as if the ground beneath me was crumbling away. My throat was dry. I tried to speak, but only trembling breaths escaped my lips. Before me, my husband smiled brightly. His arm was wrapped tightly around the waist of a young woman. "Hurry up, sweetheart. Our son is waiting." Standing beside her was a boy who looked just like my husband. "Sorry, sweetheart. I just can't hold back anymore. Someone as boring as your wife could never satisfy you, right?" Her eyes scanned me from head to toe. Her lips curled into a mocking smile. My husband, who had been away for 3 years on a business trip, had returned. But he brought home a 25-year-old mistress and a 4-year-old illegitimate son. My mind went completely whack. The mistress clung to my husband's arm. She looked down at me with an air of superiority. "You're exactly what he said you were. Such a dull woman, completely unaware of your own situation. Honestly, how slow can you be?" Matthew burst into laughter at her words. His laugh was loud and jarring. Frightened by the sound, my daughter quickly hid behind me. The mistress glanced at my daughter with a sneer. "Compared to my son, your daughter is so plain. She must take after you, slow and unremarkable." She laughed loudly, her voice grating. She then began boasting about her own youth and intelligence. She spoke with pride about how exceptional her son was, even at the age of 4. I stood there silently, unable to speak. I was never good at expressing my emotions. Often, I'd say something clumsy and regret it later. I always worried about offending others with my words. So, I avoided conflict and remained quiet. Even now, in this unjust situation, I couldn't say anything. All I could do was lower my head and stay silent. Suddenly, I felt a strong tug on the hem of my shirt. My 5-year-old daughter, Allison, was clutching my clothes tightly. Even at her young age, she could sense how strange and terrible the situation was. Her tiny fingers were trembling as she held on. Seeing her scared expression snapped me out of my daze. I realized that if I stayed silent, she would be hurt even more. I couldn't let that happen. Summoning my courage, I raised my head to confront them. But before I could speak, my daughter's small voice surprised me. "Daddy, I want to go to your new house with you." Her words left me frozen in shock. Meanwhile, my husband and the mistress exchanged triumphant looks. "See, even your daughter prefers to be with us. Maybe she's smarter than I thought. I'm Allison. She seems kind, and your new house sounds fun." My daughter spoke innocently, her face lighting up. She looked at the boy who had been standing silently. "Hey, Brian. How old are you?" "I'm 4. Allison smiled brightly at his cheerful reply. "Brian, you're so cute. Can we be friends?" "Sure." The children laughed together, their voices carefree and innocent. I stood there stunned, trying to process what was happening. But the shock was too much, and my mind couldn't keep up. While I was frozen in place, my husband thrust a divorce paper in my direction. "Here. Sign this. Hurry up." I hesitated, staring at the papers without taking them. My husband clicked his tongue loudly in frustration. "You're so annoying. Just sign it and get it over with." He shoved the table, roughly, pushing the dishes aside with a loud clatter. The sound of breaking plates jolted me back to reality. "Stop it. Please, don't do this in front of the kids." "Shut up. You just need to obey us and keep quiet." "That's right. Know your place, loser." Neither my husband nor the mistress showed any remorse. They continued filling out the divorce papers right in front of me. Cold sweat ran down my back as I washed them. Why are they doing this? My voice trembled as I barely managed to ask. Neither of them bothered to answer. When I didn't sign the papers, my husband grew impatient. "Fine. Whatever. Just get it done and submit it. Oh, and make sure you have money ready for Allison's child support." "Don't worry, I'll raise your daughter properly." You should be grateful. I clenched my fists, biting my lips hard to keep the tears from falling. I refused to let them see me cry. Finally, with a loud slam of the front door, they left the house. The kitchen fell into an eerie silence. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Alone in the empty room, I broke down and cried. That night, I couldn't eat or sleep. Allison had been taken from me, and I was overwhelmed with despair. The next day, I dragged myself to work, but I was a mess. I made mistake after mistake and couldn't focus on anything. Of course, my boss, Miss James, noticed my behavior immediately. Honestly, what's wrong with you? If you can't even do basic tasks, maybe you need to start over from scratch. I mumbled a quiet apology, but she didn't stop. This is why working mothers are such a problem. I stood there enduring her criticism in silence. Deep down, I felt she was right. I had let my personal issues affect my work. I told myself to move on and not burden my workplace any further. Exhausted, I dragged my feet home at the end of the day. But the house was cold and quiet. Allison's cheerful laughter was gone. My feet carried me to her room on their own. Allison, do you hate me now? I whispered, my voice trembling. I wondered what she was doing at her father's place. Just thinking about it made my vision blur with tears. I sat in her empty room, lost in my thoughts. How long had I been sitting there? By the time I looked up, the room was dark. I reached out and turned on the light. My eyes immediately fell on Allison's drawing board. On it, a piece of paper was folded in half. My heart started pounding. Could it be? With trembling hands, I unfolded the paper. Written in clumsy handwriting was a message from Allison. To Mommy, I'll come back soon, so wait for me. My chest tightened as I read the words. What does she mean? I didn't know what she was thinking, but I decided to believe in her. A week after Allison was taken, something unexpected happened. My husband showed up at the door furious, with Allison in tow. What kind of parenting have you been doing? His words stunned me. I stood there speechless. I can't handle her anymore. She cries over everything, throws tantrums, and even starts fights. That can't be true. Before I could defend her, my husband interrupted. She convinced Brian to draw on the walls and floors. Then, they both grabbed snacks with their bare hands and made a huge mess. I turned to Allison in shock, but she just smiled mischievously. Now, I've had enough. You take her back. As he turned to leave, Allison started crying loudly. No, Daddy. I want to stay with you. Her cries caught both of us off guard. Please, Rachel, I'll pay child support, alimony, whatever you want. Just take her back. He left in a hurry, leaving Allison behind. After he was gone, Allison turned to me with a pout. Mommy, they were so mean to you. That's why I wanted to get back at them. I couldn't help but laugh. I hugged her tightly. Thank you, Allison. She hugged me back with all her might. Mommy is my favorite person. I want to stay with you forever. Tears welled up in my eyes as I held her close. From that day, it was just the two of us again. I finally submitted the divorce papers. To my surprise, my ex-husband quickly paid the alimony and child support in full. It seemed he wanted to sever ties as fast as possible. With the financial support, we managed to move to a new place. Allison stayed at the same daycare, and life started to settle into a new rhythm. Most parents and teachers didn't ask about the changes in our lives. But one person's attitude didn't change, Nana. She and her daughter Anna continued to support Allison and me. One day, Nana invited Allison to play at their house. Stepping into her luxurious home, I was taken aback. Wow. You really are wealthy. I love your honesty, Rachel. As the kids played, Nana and I chatted over tea. You know, Allison's been worried about you. Her gentle voice made me pause. I looked at her, startled. She said, her mommy hasn't been smiling so much lately. My heart sank hearing those words. Nana smiled warmly and continued speaking. And that's why I arranged this play date. Her kindness overwhelmed me. I broke down in tears right there. Through my sobs, I told Nana everything about work, my divorce, and the challenges I was facing. She listened quietly, her expression calm and understanding. In that case, why don't you work for my company? Her sudden proposal left me speechless. I have been at my current job for so long that the idea of leaving never crossed my mind. We just had a vacancy open up. You'd be perfect for it, Rachel. Her words made me realize something. Maybe I didn't have to stay in a place where I was unhappy. I've built my company to support working moms like us. It's a small business, but we value every employee. Her genuine passion touched me deeply. I promised to think about her offer seriously. A few days later, I picked Allison up from daycare. She and Anna were grinning from year to year. Apparently, they had stood up to a classmate who had teased them. My mom is amazing. She does everything all by herself, yeah. My mom, too. Our moms are the best in the world. Hearing their proud voices brought tears to my eyes. Allison ran to me, hugging me tightly. Mommy, you're smiling. I realized then how much my gloomy mood had worried her. I hugged her back, silently vowing to make changes for her sake. I decided to accept Nana's offer and leave my toxic workplace behind. When I submitted my resignation, my boss, Miss James, was furious. You're running away? Her outburst was shocking, but not unexpected. It turned out that her mistreatment of me had backfired. Rumors spread, and her position at the company became shaky. When I left, I felt no regret. A few months later, I heard through a former coworker that Miss James was fired. Several employees had reported her for harassment, and the evidence against her was overwhelming. Meanwhile, my ex-husband faced his own reckoning. Their social media accounts, which flaunted their life together, caused a huge backlash. Their followers learned about their affair and how they had abandoned me and Allison. Their accounts were deleted, and they faced financial struggles. Allison's influence even made Brian a handful for them. Apparently, he started mimicking Allison's mischievous behavior, much to their frustration. As for me, my life took a positive turn. I joined Nana's company, where the environment was supportive and welcoming. Remember Rachel? Your voice matters here. I nodded, deeply moved by her encouragement. Allison and Anna became closer than ever, often playing together and cheering each other on. Watching them grow, I felt a renewed sense of hope. I promised myself to work hard and provide the best future for Allison.